I used to joke that Nashville is where relationships go to put on sequins and test their brakes. I'm not from there, I'm a Raleigh guy, but between bachelor parties, bachelorette girls' trips, and enough neon to light a small moon, it's the kind of place where people try on versions of themselves and decide which one makes it to Monday. I'm Owen, 34, insurance claims investigator, which is a fancy way of saying I get paid to figure out if stories match receipts. I spend my days asking quiet questions like, if the pipe burst upstairs, why are the boxes on the top shelf wet? I am not a cynic. I'm a man whose job has taught him that truth and paperwork travel well together. My fiancée was Maya, 31, social media strategist for a bridal boutique that thinks capsule wardrobe should include 3 white dresses. She came with a laugh that made strangers turn and the kind of planning brain that makes a Google Doc feel like a promise. We met in a line at a food truck rodeo, both of us complaining about how long it takes to make fries crispy. She asked what I did. I said, I find facts. She said, I make vibes. It felt like a good pairing. Brakes and gas. She said yes in December under an ugly sweater that looked good on her anyway. I overpaid for the ring because I wanted it to look at her the way I did. We set a September date in Durham, rented a brick-walled venue with string lights and ghosts, and set up a Zola for the kind of gifts you don't know you need until an algorithm says you do. She named our theme Clean Lines, Warm Light. I promised myself I wouldn't let my day job follow me into the parts of life that are supposed to be about faith. In May, she told me she had a girls' trip to Nashville for her college roommate's bachelorette. 3 days, she said, pinching my cheek with 2 fingers like she was saving the rest of me for later. Honky tonk, hot chicken, hydrating face masks. I'll be back Sunday and we'll do the tasting Monday. Don't call unless Daisy eats socks again. Nashville, I said, trying to sound like a man who hears that sentence all the time and not like a man whose brain immediately Googled hotel fire codes. Have fun. The week before the trip, we went to the county clerk's office to grab the information packet for our marriage license. Our county requires an in-person application and 2 IDs, and Maya wanted to make content out of the stamps like it was a passport. The clerk was friendly, told us to come back 30 days out, and mentioned you can look up any license in the state because the people's records are the people's. Maya took a boomerang of our hands, holding the pamphlet, posted paperwork but make it romantic, and kissed me in the hallway under a fluorescent light that didn't deserve the job it was doing. The morning she left for Nashville, she wore a hat that said Nash Bash in glitter and a white denim jacket with Bride across the back like a sports jersey. She took the suitcase we bought for Italy and a tote full of sashes and a disposable camera for retro vibes. She kissed me once, then again, then on the nose. Don't miss me too hard, she said. We're doing a pedal tavern. If I call you screaming, it's because a stranger saying friends in low places at my head from 6 inches away. She texted me photos all morning because that was our rhythm. Her boarding pass, a plain wing and a cloud. A Bloody Mary with a plastic sword through 2 olives. She landed at noon. Ladies assembled, she wrote. Send prayers. At lunch, I had 15 minutes between a roof claim and a broken windshield. I pulled up the county clerk's website because I wanted to double-check our own paperwork timeline. It's a dumb thing to admit, but the truth is unromantic. I like to know which window to stand in and which form needs a blue pen. The county's marriage license search is one of those sites that looks like it was designed in 2004 and never updated. Gray boxes, a search bar, and a drop-down for county. Out of habit, I typed her first name and last name into the state search, thinking I'd get our counties blank and move on. Her name came up, not in Durham, in Davidson County, Tennessee. That's Nashville. Application received, status, pending issuance, groom, Colton Reese. If you've ever felt a floorboard give under your foot when you were sure the wood was sound, you know the sensation. Your body doesn't scream. It goes very still. The part of your brain that evolved on a plane full of cats with teeth says, we will not move until we understand. I checked the date. It was that weekend. The same date as her friend's bachelorette itinerary. One of those Canva graphics with a cowboy boot and cursive. I took a screenshot out of muscle memory, then another, then printed it because paper registers in a different part of my brain. I told myself there are common names in the world. I told myself there are other Mayas who spell it the same way and other women who share her middle initial. I told myself to breathe. I clicked the listing. The record pulled open like a curtain. There was her birthday, her address, her parents' hometown listed as place of birth. If Davidson County's database was accurate, my fiancé was applying for a marriage license with another man on day 2 of a girl's trip. I closed the tab. I opened it again. The information hadn't learned new manners in the last 12 seconds. Colton. I'd heard that name once. Maya had mentioned him in an old friend's story. Colton, who moved to Nashville after college. He's like a golden retriever in boots. You'd like him. In that story, he was a character 3 chairs down at a bar in a city that wasn't mine. In this story, he was a groom. There is an unhealthy version of me that would have gone to Instagram and started scrolling until my thumbs bled. The part of me that pays the mortgage with facts won the coin toss. I opened a new tab and typed Colton Reese, Nashville. The internet served me a LinkedIn with a face that looked like a country singer understudy, then an Instagram with a highlight bubble labeled, She Said Yes. The bubble was a ring box opening on a wood table with a candle and a hand I recognized, not the ring I bought, her other hand. Nope, I said out loud to an empty kitchen. Nope, nope. The timestamp was 2 months ago. Private post, visible to close friends. I wasn't one. Someone had tagged him and their profile was public. The grid was a catalog of normal, a dog, a fishing trip, a neon sign, and a bar. On March 21st, the photo of two champagne flutes and a caption, counting down to forever. I closed the app. I washed my hands, although I hadn't touched anything. If you're waiting for the part where I called her and asked a question I already knew the answer to, it didn't happen. I'm not proud. I'm saying it because lies are shapeshifters, and the only way I know how to catch one is to freeze it. Phone calls melt them, screenshots don't. I opened her wedding website because we built it together one night with wine and jokes and a debate about whether to include the story of how the food truck guy gave us extra fries. It was still up, our names at the top, our date, our venue, our registries. I clicked the Gifts tab, Zola, Crate and Barrel, Target, Honey Fund. Down near the bottom, a tiny link, cash funds managed by couple, a home down payment fund, a mini moon fund. There, in small print, an option to send money directly to a P.O. box in Nashville for those who prefer checks. I hadn't seen that line before. I checked the edit history on the Zola page. The checks line had been added 6 days ago. I checked the Manage Addresses tab. There were 3 addresses saved: our apartment, her parents' house in Greensboro, and a temporary storage in Nashville with a suite number that looked like a mailbox. I told myself she might have added the Nashville address to ship a gift to her friend. It took effort to make the sentence in my head sound like a person who believed it. The more time I spend on this earth, the more I believe in phone calls to offices with signs. I called the Davidson County clerk and asked, in a voice that felt like I was calling about a permit to build a deck, if marriage license applications were public and whether a clerk could confirm a record existed. We can confirm a record, the woman said, but we can't provide copies without the parties present. She asked for names. I gave them. She spelled them back to me. She put me on hold. I stared at the magnet calendar on our fridge while someone in Nashville put me on hold to check whether my life had a duplicate. When she came back, she said, application received. Pending issuance. Ceremony date listed as Sunday. The license is valid for 30 days. Is there a ceremony location listed? I asked, hating myself a little for my own training. Optional field, she said. This one says private residence. Thank you, I said, because manners are stubborn even when you're bleeding. In the afternoon, I put a pot of coffee on and made a spreadsheet because my hands needed to move, and making a grid is the one thing they do that calms the rest of me down. I labeled tabs, timeline, registries, vendors, money. I listed what I knew, I listed what I didn't. I saved every page as a PDF because I have learned, in work and now apparently at home, that websites like to rewrite themselves when they know you're looking. I checked our joint checking account. She'd made 2 large cash withdrawals in the past 2 weeks, 1,000 and 2,400. Maya hates carrying cash. She calls paper germ money. There were also 3 Venmo payments to a name I didn't recognize with notes like final floral payment, rehearsal dinner, and security deposit. She'd attached lock emojis to each, which is either a joke or a premonition. I opened our email and searched the not. 2 emails from addresses I didn't know. Your wedding website is live? I clicked. Different URL, same template. M&C. Their Nashville website looked like ours after an expensive blowout. Same photos, cropped carefully so I was airbrushed out of the edge of one. Same how we met story with the pronouns changed. Same registries, Zola, Target, Crate and Barrel, Honey Fund, same order. Their About page mentioned 2 ceremonies because family is everywhere. It would be funny, the audacity, if it weren't my face in the negative space of her new life. At 6 p.m., her college roommate, the bride-to-be, posted a story from a rooftop bar. I recognized Maya's jacket in the corner of the frame. The caption said, Nash Bash, Day 1 with a cowboy hat emoji. They clinked glasses. The skyline did its thing. Someone yelled, "Whee!" I didn't text. Instead, I clicked the photographer tag on the Nashville website. He was legit clean grid, tagged venues. I DM'd, "Hi, this is probably weird. Are you booked Sunday for a private residence wedding for M&C? Asking because I think I'm being scammed and I'm trying to see if there is a reality to what I'm seeing online." He wrote back 10 minutes later, "Who is this really?" "A man who thought he was the only fiancé," I wrote. Silence for a while. Then, I'm booked for a private. Deposit paid by Ever After Events via Cash App. No contract with bride directly. If this is a credit card chargeback situation, I need to know before Sunday. Please don't do anything wild. Wild is the last item on my list, I wrote, copied the deposit amounts from our bank statement, and asked if that matched his ledger. It did. I found the officiant tag. She had a calm smile and a bio that used the words inclusive and secular and custom vows. I emailed her info address with the subject line, potential fraud, urgent, sensitive. She called me an hour later and asked 3 improbable questions that told me she had done this before. Are you safe? Are you alone? Do you want me to cancel? I want you to know, I said, and I want a record that I told you. I'm not asking you to blow up someone's day. I'm asking you not to help set fire to mine. She sighed, the kind of sigh that sounds like a file cabinet opening. I'll call the registrar in the morning and flag the application, she said. If there are 2 on file for the same party in different counties, they sometimes pause issuance until identities are confirmed. I can also let you know the rehearsal time if you want to serve anything. But please don't do this alone. I have seen what happens when a man who's been lied to decides the only way to get his dignity back is through volume. Get a witness. Or 3. Thank you, I said. It felt like the first adult sentence I'd spoken all day. That night, I slept badly and had a dream where I was trying to put a fitted sheet on a king-size bed with corners that changed size while my arms stayed the same. I woke up at 3,000 a.m. and watched the ceiling for an hour and then got up and made a list titled Things I Can Control. It was short, it was better than nothing. Saturday morning, Maya sent me a picture of her and three women in matching boots standing in front of a mural of wings. I picked the wholesome kind, she captioned. No shots today. Be proud. The rings on her fingers were the ones I knew. I stared too long, trying to see if there was a shadow of another ring on her skin. I called my best friend Daniel, the one person in my life who says, "Do you want comfort or solutions?" before he gives me either. I told him the outline, not all the details. He said, "I'm coming over," grabbed coffee, and sat at my table like it was a war room. He is a paramedic. He's good at triage. Is she safe? He asked. Are you? For now, I said. Okay, he said. Then we build the boring thing. We made a timeline like we do in my job when a claim smells like cologne and gasoline. Nashville flight, clerk record, photographer deposit, a fishing call, our own venue booking, checks to P.O. box. We printed it and stuck it to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a tomato because absurdity deserves company. I called my mom because I didn't want her to find out from a cousin on Facebook that my life had become an after-school special. She listened like a nurse, asking 3 questions in order. Are you eating? Are you sleeping at all? Do you want me to come sit in your house and keep you from making a television show out of this? I said yes to the first, no to the second, and no to the third, with a caveat: if tomorrow goes sideways, I might call you from a parking lot and ask you to tell me a story about when I was 5 and wouldn't stop asking questions. You're good at making me not like the idea of handcuffs. She laughed and then made a noise that wasn't a laugh. I had not heard my mother cry in years. People do wild things when they're scared, she said. You do the kind thing, which is tell the truth with witnesses. At noon, the officiant emailed me the rehearsal time and location listed for M&C, a rented farmhouse 20 minutes outside of Nashville, 5 p.m., Sunset Vows practice. She CC'd a detective in the local precinct whose signature line read, Financial Crimes, Consumer Affairs. She'd seen this show before. I wasn't going to Nashville. I had no interest in becoming a YouTube video titled Groom Crashes Rehearsal and Loses Mind. But I could put pressure on the pipes. I could write to the platforms. I could send copies of the clerk record to Zola and Target and Crate and Barrel and Honey Fund with the subject line, Fraud, Dual Engagement, Immediate Freeze Requested. I could DM the band listed on the site and the caterer and the tent rental, attach bank receipts for the deposits that left our account, and say, if you've been paid by a third party using funds acquired by deception, please consider pausing services pending verification. I did all of that. Some sent templated replies, some sent a single line. Oh, Zola froze the cash fund pending verification. Target flagged the registry shipping address as suspicious and paused deliveries to the Nashville mailbox. The band's manager called me and said, "We play for a lot of dumb love. We don't play for crime. Consider us out." At 3, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, this is Allie Bridesmaid. Maya is freaking out. Did you call vendors? What are you doing?" I stared at the screen for a long second before I realized she must have remembered my number from a group chat where I'd been added as Owen Beer Truck. "I'm confirming reality," I wrote back. "I'm not showing up in a field. I'm not making a scene. I'm keeping people from becoming victims if I can help it." "Victim," she wrote, then a long stream of dots, then, "She's in love." "With who?" I typed, and felt something inside me harden to a point. No response. At 4, the county clerk emailed, "We have flagged the application for review. Thank you for your concern. Government kindness?" From a stranger on a Saturday. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At 5, Daniel sat on my couch and watched a baseball game with the sound off while I watched my phone. The officiant sent a final note. She arrived. The detective is present. If you want to be updated after, I can email tonight. I wrote back, "Please do. Be safe." At 5012, my phone pinged. Not from the officiant, from Maya. "Can we talk?" she texted. "I need you to understand." I stared so long at the 3 dots that my eyes watered. Then I wrote, "Yes, but understand this, I know about the license, I know about the website, I know about the registries in the mailbox, I've contacted the clerk and the vendors, I'm not yelling, I'm documenting. If you want me to understand, start with this sentence, I have been engaged to 2 men." The dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. No reply came. 10 minutes later, another text, "I'm so sorry," followed by a photo of her hand with the ring I didn't buy, turned inward so the stone didn't show. The background looked like a rustic porch. Sunset. It should have been a beautiful picture in another life. I put the phone face down on the table. I didn't throw it. I didn't scream. I breathed into my own hands until my pulse stopped trying to punch a hole through my neck. At 7 p.m., the officiant emailed, "She was detained for questioning on suspicion of fraud related to charitable solicitations and registry misuse. No cuffs, no spectacle. Vendors notified. Clerk has paused issuance pending investigation. You did the right thing not to come." I closed the laptop gently like it might bruise. If this were a movie, this is where the music would swell and I'd look out a window and a neon sign would flicker someplace far away and my face would do something noble. In real life, I took Daisy out to pee, looked at a sky that did not care, and reheated pasta. Daniel did the thing best friends do and stayed on the couch until midnight, falling asleep with a throw pillow over his face like a child. I sat up and watched the ceiling again and thought about vows and paperwork and how sometimes the only way to avoid becoming a villain in someone else's story is to stop auditioning for the part. Tomorrow, I'd start the part of this that is boring and necessary. Formal statements, refund requests, a conversation with my venue, a quiet text to my family that said, "It's off, we're okay," and a call to a therapist who looks like beige on purpose. Tonight, I did the bravest thing I've learned to do in 34 years: nothing. I let the facts hold me up. I let the room be quiet without asking it to lie to me. I let sleep come when it wanted, not as a reward, but as a witness. If you're still with me, if you've ever found your name twice in a place, there should be only one. You know the particular gravity of a weekend like this. It pulls on all the wrong parts of you. It asks you to be louder than the truth. I'm not interested in volume. I'm interested in outcomes. Tomorrow, I'd go get them. The email from the officiant sat open like a door I didn't want to walk through twice. I forwarded it to the folder, closed the laptop, and slept 5 hours that felt like a courtroom recess. When I woke up, Sunday had that bright, mean sunlight that makes even bad news look well lit. Detective Avery from Nashville called at 9. Calm voice, questions in a steady order. Did I submit the registry links? Did I have copies of the dual websites? Would I send the clerk screenshot and my bank statement showing the cash pools and deposits to vendors? I said yes to everything. She told me what she could without breaking rules. They detained Maya for questioning at the rehearsal site, along with a woman named Greta, who was coordinating deliveries to the private residence and managing the mailbox address. They had spoken to a handful of vendors who showed up, realized the license was on hold, and stood around looking like people who had arrived early to a movie that wasn't showing. No cuffs, no scene. Statements taken in a living room that smelled like rented eucalyptus and panic. "Do you want to press charges?" she asked. "I want victims to get their money back," I said. "I want her to stop. I want my life back." "That is a yes," she said gently. "We'll route this through financial crimes and consumer protection. It may not be a TV ending. It will be an ending." By noon, I had a thread going with vendors that read like triage notes. The photographer refunded half his deposit out of pocket and asked me to send him any case number so he could claim the rest through the platforms that had frozen the cash fund. The band's manager forwarded me 3 emails from other couples they'd turned down for Sunday because they'd booked M&C and wrote a single line under them: "We should be playing for people who meant it." The tent rental company, bless them, sent a driver to pick up the unrolled but unused sides and knocked the restocking fee off their invoice as karma discount. Zola processed a mass refund and sent an email that sounded like it had been written by a lawyer with a heart. "Your contributions were sent in good faith. We are sorry for the misuse. Funds have been returned." Target and Crate and Barrel flagged the Nashville mailbox and reversed charges on anything still in transit. Honey Fund put a hard lock on both pages. My inbox became a waiting room. People came and went. I stayed. At 2, Colton texted me from a Tennessee number I didn't recognize with a message that started with my name and ended with, "Can I call?" I stared at it long enough to taste metal. Then I typed yes. He sounded younger than his photos, like a man who had been told all his life that everything would work out if he was kind enough and now wanted to believe that one more day. He apologized first, which surprised me. "I didn't know about you," he said. "I swear. She told me she was doing a micro in North Carolina for her family later in the year. She said the Nashville ceremony would be the content one." It sounded dumb. It didn't sound like a lie until today. I saw the detective's badge. I saw her face. The whole thing snapped like a twig. "What did she tell you about me?" I asked. "That you were an ex she'd stayed friends with because you were decent and practical," he said. "She said she wanted someone who saw her magic." I thought that meant me. I'm not proud of that sentence. We were quiet a moment, both of us listening to our own choices echo. "You got a ring," I said, "because practical questions are my life jacket." "I bought one," he said. She showed me a Pinterest board with round stones and skinny bands and captions about timeless. I went to a store and said words I didn't know belonged in my mouth. "I'm returning it. I don't want a refund from you. I want a refund from the part of my brain that thought I was special enough to forgive math." "Math always shows up," I said, "sooner or later." "I'm sorry," he said again, "because it was the only honest currency we had to pass between us. If you ever want to sit on a porch and not talk, I'm your man." "Maybe one day," I said. "Right now, I'm a list with legs." After the call, I wrote a statement for our own venue. I told them the wedding was off and why without turning it into a show. I asked for whatever partial refund they could muster and offered to work their cancellation list to fill the date because I know what a Saturday is worth to a building with a mortgage. They sent me a 2-line reply. "I'll remember longer than any refund. We're sorry. Bring your mom by for cake tasting leftovers if you want them. Grief eats sugar." Maya's first call came at 4. The number was Nashville. The background sounded like a lobby. I let it ring twice. Then I answered. "I need you to listen," she said, and the voice was the one she uses when she's about to pitch something that requires you to ignore 3 facts and accept 1 feeling. "No," I said. "I need you to answer." "I didn't set out to hurt you," she started. "That's not an answer," I said, and surprised myself with how quiet I sounded. "Say this: I was engaged to 2 men." Silence. For a long beat, I could hear the HVAC in whatever building she was in. I was engaged to two men, she said. Say this, I said. I set up two registries. I booked two sets of vendors. I took money from two groups of people and promised the same day to both. I set up two registries, she said. The rest came out smaller. I promised the same day to both. Say this, I said. I thought I could get away with it because Nashville is loud and the internet is helpful and I am good at telling stories. She didn't repeat that one. She said, I thought I could manage it. Your management style is theft, I said. Make it neat. You did it for the discounts, the cashbacks, the free nights, the content, the applause. Pick your favorite word. They're all the same temperature. There were reasons, she said. I felt alone. I felt like I had to earn the life I wanted. I kept thinking if I could just get enough set up, I could stop juggling. I was going to tell you, I was going to cancel Nashville after the Bachelorette and send everyone home with a story about bad weather. It got away from me. It was never with you, I said. She cried then. Not pretty, not performative. It sounded like a leak. I'll pay people back, she said. Tell them that. I'll do whatever the police ask. I'll say I'm sorry until it might as well be my name. Please don't ruin my job. You work at a bridal boutique, I said. Your job is already a bonfire. I didn't light it. I'm handing out water. Do you want the ring back? She said suddenly, like we changed sports. Which one? I said, and the silence after made me hate that I could still be cruel when I was this tired. She exhaled a sound that tried to be a laugh and failed. Yours, she said. I'll mail it, or I'll bring it, or I'll leave it with your mom. Mail it to Daniel, I said. He'll sign for it. He likes paperwork. Are you done with me? She asked. Like done, done. I'm done being your alibi, I said. The rest is what courts and calendars are for. We hung up. I stood at the sink and washed a glass like it had done something wrong. Then I took Daisy outside because dolls are the best reason to leave your house and remember that the world is not your personal affidavit. Monday was letters. Letters to platforms with case numbers. Letters to vendors with logs and dates. Letters to my family that began with, I'm safe, and ended with, I still want you at my table even if the table that brought us together is gone. I called my grandmother and told her the truth without handing her worries she couldn't set down. She said, I married your grandfather in a courtroom because the church burned down the week before. I still remember the dress I didn't wear. It turns out it's not the fabric that keeps you warm, it's the person. Detective Avery sent an update midweek. The DA's office was reviewing. The charges would likely live under a boring set of statutes: theft by deception, fraudulent solicitation, unauthorized use of identifying information for the mailbox, maybe a county-level ordinance about using public registries for private gain, no prison, probation, restitution, a ban on running any crowdfunding or registry campaigns during probation, mandatory ethics course, which sounds like a joke until you're the one sitting in a room being taught the difference between intention and impact by a woman with a binder and 10 laminated examples. Will you cooperate if her counsel reaches out for restitution negotiation? The detective asked. Yes, I said. With paper, with receipts, with all your case numbers in the subject line. I don't want to be the man who turned a mess into a meme. I want to be the man who sent checks to florists so they could stop thinking about us and go back to making June smell nice. Maya's employer called me with an HR tone that suggested they had been through fire drills for other people's messes, just not this one. They thanked me for the documentation. They asked for permission to use the folder if they needed to respond to reputational inquiries. I said yes. 2 hours later, Maya texted that she'd been put on leave. 2 days later, she packaged her desk and sent a photo of a paper bag with a mug, a plant, and a pair of scissors. I always hated this mug, she wrote, like the sentence might turn what happened into a quirky story about office life. I didn't reply. The refunds came in waves. Zola wired a chunk to my bank that matched the cash fund. Honey Fund confirmed reversals. The big box stores credited gift cards back to senders with a note that said shipment canceled at request of organizer. The tin company sent an apology for the stress they'd be part of and an offer to comp a backyard shade for a future barbecue because kindness shows up in strange places. I put every letter, every check, every case number in the folder. Then I started mailing. You'd be amazed how much better your house feels when you put outgoing checks in a stack that gets smaller every day. The florist in Nashville sent me a thank you card with a pressed sprig of rosemary taped inside because she's the kind of person who knows plants are receipts too. The band posted a story that said, playing for folks who mean it tonight, and I listened on my couch and let the sound do a thing in my chest I can't name without being corny. Colton mailed me a note with a Polaroid of a dog in a cowboy hat and the sentence, this is Hank. He's been fired as ring bearer, but he's available for morale. He included the business card of his therapist. It was an odd kindness. I put it in my wallet next to the insurance card like a symbol I was trying on and decided to keep. I did meet with a therapist. Beige couch, tissues on the table like a dare. She asked me to tell the story in 10 sentences. I used 12. She asked me what feeling I kept skipping. I said fury, and then looked at the ceiling because a grown man admitting he's angry still feels like breaking a gentleman's rule. We talked about shame. We talked about control. We talked about how the skill set that keeps me good at work might keep me lonely if I let it be the only set I train. She made me write a letter to myself that started with, you did the boring thing and it saved your life. It felt dumb to write. It felt correct to read back. On the legal side, Maya took a plea on 2 misdemeanor counts. Probation for 18 months. Restitution monitored through the court with a payment plan that looks like a grown-up's version of consequences. A ban on creating or managing registries, crowdfunding, or cash funds during that term. A workshop called Ethics of Influence that I didn't know existed and now consider proof that someone in the city office has a sense of humor. Greta, the coordinator, flipped early and handed over enough email chains to make even a patient detective mutter under her breath. If you're curious, no, they didn't call it a registry pyramid. The words the law uses are uglier and duller, which is fine by me. Dull words still cash. Our venue sold our date to another couple on the wait list. The owner hugged me when I stopped by to sign the cancellation and handed me 2 boxes of cake slices wrapped like treasure. I brought one to my mom and one to Daniel. We ate them with coffee at 2 in the afternoon like we were high schoolers hiding in a band room. Maya mailed my ring back to Daniel. He brought it over wrapped in a dish towel like it could shatter if you looked at it wrong. I put it in the safe, not because I wanted to keep it like a relic, but because I needed it to not be on a counter where I'd have to look at it when I reached for the salt. Colton returned his and sent me the receipt as if to prove something to a judge in both our heads. He and I have not sat on a porch yet. I suspect one day we will, and it will be a quiet I don't have to earn. The hardest part turned out to be small, stupid things. Canceling hotel blocks, calling Aunt Marcia to say she could unhem the dress, rewriting the automatic reply we had both drafted that said we're off to Italy so it didn't go out to clients and friends when the date hit, taking Bride off the jacket so Daisy could wear it as a raincoat because she hates thunder, and the sound it makes when drops hit denim is softer than on her fur. Don't judge me. People make altars out of the strangest junk. If you're waiting for the part where I forgive her, I don't have a sentence for you that will satisfy every version of that word. I don't wish her harm. I don't wake up hoping she's miserable. I wake up grateful I didn't become the loudest man in a room full of lies. I wake up grateful for detectives with clipboards and clerks who answer phones on Saturdays and vendors who choose principal over deposits and friends who sleep on your couch instead of letting you drive to Tennessee with the wrong kind of story in your mouth. We called off the wedding, we didn't burn down our lives. There's a difference. I'm keeping the lease, I'm keeping Daisy and the couch and the plants that are somehow still alive. I'm keeping my job where the question, why are the top boxes wet, still wins the day. I'm keeping a calendar that now has 0 ceremonies on it and 3 dinners with people who've known me since I had bad hair and 1 coat. If this finds you in the middle of your own Nashville where the neon makes everything look prettier than it is, here's what I learned. Check the clerk site. Not because you're paranoid, but because public records are public for a reason. Follow the money. Not because you're stingy, but because your heart deserves to live where dollars and dates agree. Tell the truth with witnesses. Not because you want applause, but because it keeps drama from thinking it belongs to you. Choose the boring room. The boring room is where refunds happen and case numbers get assigned and people stop pretending a promise is a vibe. What would you have done? Flown to Nashville and made a scene on a porch at sunset? Or stayed home and wrote letters that made money walk backward? Called her first? Or called the clerk? Told the internet? Or told the people with clipboards and copy machines? Would you have taken the ring back or thrown it in the river? Drop your take in the comments. Be honest. Be kind. If this kept you listening, hit like so. It finds the next person staring at a state database and trying to decide whether they're crazy. Subscribe for more long, messy, painfully human stories where the twist isn't a dramatic entrance, it's a public record, a frozen cash fund, and a detective who shows up to rehearsal so a lie can't practice its vows.